They hailed the ship as a legend, until an entire armada was destroyed. Large alien coalitions ruled most trade routes, and their fleets decided who could travel safely and who could not. Humans lived on the edges of this order. They were not weak, but they were few. Their worlds were spread out, and their fleets were small compared to the great armadas of other species. For many years, humans avoided large wars. They traded, negotiated, and stayed quiet. Other species began to think humans were harmless. That belief had grown strong. Near the border of human space, a small human scout ship drifted through a dark system filled with broken moons and cold stars. Its name was the Horizon Path, and it carried only a handful of crew. The ship's mission was simple: observe, record, and avoid attention. Laura King stood at the sensor station, her eyes fixed on the screen. She was calm by nature, trained to notice small details others missed. Numbers and signals flowed past her, most of them boring and expected, until something changed. She leaned closer. "Captain," she said, her voice steady but alert, "I'm picking up something strange." He was not a loud man, but his presence filled the bridge. "What kind of strange?" Laura shook her head. "No, too clean, too intact. Older than anything in our records, much older." It looked like it had been designed for war, not speed or beauty. Laura swallowed. "Captain, I think this is it." Most believed it was just a myth. "Keep us hidden," Jack said. "Low power, no signals." Megan's breath caught. "That's an armada." An old thing, quiet and alone. On the alien flagship, commanders studied the image. The ship did not match any known threat profile. Its design was ancient and its systems appeared inactive. One of the alien officers made a sound of amusement. "A relic," it said. "Humans leave their trash everywhere." Lights flashed as targeting systems locked on. Back on the Horizon Path, Laura watched in horror. "They're forming attack positions." Then those aliens have no idea what they're about to face. A man sat in it, still and patient. His name was Ethan Brooks. He opened his eyes as the ship's systems finished their checks. Data flowed into his mind through displays and subtle signals. He had been waiting a long time. "Status," he said calmly. The ship responded in a low, steady voice. "Multiple hostile vessels detected. Probability of engagement high." "I thought so." On the Horizon Path, Laura felt a strange change ripple through space. "Captain, the old ship just activated something." He let it wait for a moment longer, then spoke. "Open channel," he said. The alien commander appeared, tall and sharp-featured, its eyes glowing with confidence. "This vessel is under the control of the Coalition," the commander said. "You are ordered to surrender and prepare for boarding." "Turn back." They did not plan to destroy the old ship. They wanted to capture it, to study it, to prove human weakness. They did not understand what they were facing. Inside the legend, Ethan placed his hands on the controls. The ship responded like an old friend. "Defense systems," he said. "Online," the ship replied. Ethan took a slow breath. He remembered the wars that had led to this moment. The fear. The loss, the promise humans had made to themselves never to fight like that again unless they had no other choice. "They never listen," he said quietly. Outside, the first alien ships moved into firing range. The legend waited. The alien armada arrived in perfect order. Hundreds of ships slid out of folded space at the edge of the system, their hulls shining like polished stone. They formed long lines and wide circles, filling the darkness with engine light. To them, the lone human ship looked small and old. It drifted near a dead moon, silent, its surface dark and scarred by age. On the bridge of the human scout ship far away, Laura King watched the display with tight focus. Her ship was hidden behind a gas cloud, running on low power. She had been sent only to observe. No one had expected to find the legend here. Most people believed it was a myth, a story told to scare enemies and comfort human colonies. Yet the readings on her screen were real. Captain Jack Hale stood beside her, arms crossed. He said nothing. His eyes followed the alien formations as they spread out with calm confidence. "They think it is a relic," Laura said quietly. "They think it cannot fight." Systems that had slept for decades began to wake. Deep inside the hull, power cores adjusted their output, slow and careful. Ethan Brooks sat alone on the bridge. He was not young, but not old either. His uniform was simple, without rank markings that meant anything to modern fleets. He watched the incoming signal with calm eyes. The ship's voice spoke softly. "Incoming, Hale. Non-human origin." His hands rested on the armrests, relaxed. "This is a human ship," he said. "You are too close to human space. Withdraw." "Leave." It is layered in a way we stopped using because it burned crews alive. The first shots hit the Legend's outer field and vanished. Not exploded, not deflected. They simply ceased to exist. The alien gunners adjusted and fired again, increasing power. The result was the same. On the flagship, confusion spread. Sensors showed impact but no damage, no energy bleed, no heat. The commander ordered a third volley, stronger still. Inside the Legend, the ship hummed softly. The shields adjusted, learning. Old code rewrote itself faster than any modern system. Laura's screen filled with strange shapes as space bent around the human ship. Her breath caught. "They are not blocking the shots," she said. "They are erasing them." He ordered a focused strike from a cruiser aimed at the human ship's engines. The beam struck true. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cruiser vanished, not exploded, not torn apart. Gone. Space folded inward where it had been, then smoothed over like water. Silence spread across the Armada. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "You have fired on a human ship," he said calmly as he reopened the channel. "This was your choice." Orders overlapped. Ships shifted position, some pulling back, others charging weapons in fear. Megan's hands shook as she watched the data. "They are not using standard weapons," she whispered. "This is control of physics itself." They attacked together. Hundreds of beams and missiles filled the dark, a storm of light and fire aimed at the Legend. The human ship did not dodge. Space twisted. Entire lines of ships slammed into invisible walls. Gravity spiked without warning, crushing hulls inward. Navigation failed as up and down lost meaning. Formations broke apart in seconds. Ethan stood as the bridge lights dimmed slightly. The ship's systems were working harder now, drawing power from sources no one else used anymore. "Limit response," he said quietly. The Legend obeyed. Instead of destroying everything, it cut out command and control. Flagships lost power. Communication nodes collapsed. Ships drifted blind, crashing into each other. The alien commander screamed orders that no one could hear. Laura felt sick as she watched. "This is not a battle," she said. "It is a lesson." As the last hostile weapon went silent, the Legend powered down its higher systems. The battlefield froze into stillness, filled with wrecks and drifting debris. Ethan sat back down. The ship spoke again. Threat reduced. The galaxy did not immediately notice the disappearance of the alien armada. Ships that survived fled in every direction, their sensors scrambled, their commanders trembling. The news would spread slowly, but the fear of humanity would travel faster than any signal. Inside the Legend, the ship was quiet again. Ethan Brooks walked along the long corridor toward the bridge. His footsteps echoed on metal floors worn smooth by decades of use. The lights flickered as the ship's systems recalibrated after the massive energy discharge that had erased an entire fleet. He paused for a moment at a viewport, staring at the stars outside. "They are gone," he said softly, though no one was there to hear. The silence of space seemed to answer him back. The bridge hummed with life. Old monitors blinked with data, some in code that no human alive had ever seen outside of this ship. Ethan sat in his chair, running a hand across the smooth control surface. Everything was functioning, but he could feel the strain in the systems. The Legend had used centuries of stored energy and knowledge to repel the attack. It would need time to recover fully. Far away, human observation stations picked up strange readings. Laura King was the first to notice. Her small scout ship had been hiding behind a dense asteroid field, its sensors stretched to the limit to monitor the battle. She watched the aftermath, her fingers tracing lines across her console. "Captain," she said to Jack Hale, "the ships, they are gone, entirely. I can't even detect their remains properly. Some sort of collapse or folding, maybe." "They really did." Her hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through the energy readings. "It's not just weapons," she said to Laura. They altered gravity, momentum, and even time in some of the impact zones. This ship doesn't just fight, it bends the battlefield itself. Not like any war we fight today, but war that could end entire systems, and they kept it hidden for decades. Merchants traded rumors as if they were commodities. Even in far systems untouched by the battle, the Legend began to grow. Ethan did not watch news feeds or gossip. He walked the empty corridors, checking systems and ensuring the ship was stable. Old engines purred softly, and the lights hummed with energy. He thought about the humans who had built this ship, the engineers and commanders who had designed a vessel meant to survive everything. They had never wanted it to fight alone, but the galaxy had forced it to. A soft alert sounded in the bridge. Ethan walked over to the console. There was a signal, faint but detectable, coming from outside the star system. Not alien. Not human either, at least not immediately recognizable. Detection, he said. Unknown signature, low energy, moving at slow speed, intelligent pattern. Laura and Megan, still on the scout ship, watched the readings from afar. It's approaching the area where the Armada was, Laura said. Do you think it could be another alien force? He did not want to provoke anything unnecessarily, but he wanted to be ready. The approaching ship came closer. Its sensors began to broadcast weak signals but clear enough to form a message. It was in a strange code, not like any human language, not like the alien language of the fleet that had been destroyed. Ethan worked to decode it. Requesting parley, he read aloud as the message translated. No hostile intent, observation only. We have witnessed a human vessel destroy an entire armada, it said. We seek understanding. We are observers, not fighters. Dangerous and impressive. Not one crew. The galaxy must not always know what humans can do. Otherwise, it never rests. We fight only when forced. But we hope it will not be. And that's how we will continue. Somewhere far away, survivors of the destroyed armada whispered stories about the human ship. Their words carried fear, doubt, and awe. Entire fleets would hesitate before challenging humans again. The legend had returned not as a myth, but as proof. Ethan leaned on a railing overlooking the engine room. Old lights reflected on his face. He thought about the centuries of humans who had come before, the wars fought and the secrets kept. He thought about the peace humans had built and how fragile it could be. The galaxy will not forget this, he said softly. No one answered. There was only the hum of the ship, steady and eternal. Outside, stars moved as always. But a shadow had fallen over the nearby systems, a warning written in silence and light. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were a force that could reshape war itself. And the legend waited. The galaxy slowly began to feel the consequences of the battle. Entire systems that once relied on alien patrols for protection now floated in uncertain silence. Traders whispered about missing fleets. Colonies debated whether to rebuild their defenses or flee to safer zones. But everywhere, humans were becoming a quiet, lingering presence in conversation, spoken of in cautious tones. On the bridge of the legend, Ethan Brooks watched the stars move past. The ship hummed beneath his feet, steady but alive. The energy signatures left in the wake of the destroyed armada were still detectable, but the ship's systems were stable. This will take time to fully recover, Ethan said to no one. The ship had no crew besides him, no officers, no council. Yet in a way, it felt alive, as if it understood. He walked through the corridors, checking power conduits and sensor arrays. Ancient lights flickered along the walls. He ran a hand over a panel that had been repaired so many times it was nearly smooth with use. He thought of humans who had come before him, engineers who had built the legend, commanders who had designed the strategies embedded into its systems, and crews who had trained for wars they never intended to fight again. They had made something more than a ship. They had made a story, a living force, and a shield for humanity's survival. Meanwhile, on a small observation post far from the battle, Laura King and Megan Shaw were busy analyzing all the data they had collected. The numbers made no sense at first. Entire fleets had vanished without a trace. Weapons had been erased before they even hit their target. Energy readings suggested that the ship could manipulate the very forces of space. Laura leaned back in her chair, rubbing her eyes. "We've never seen anything like this," she said. "This is more than a weapon. It's like a force of nature. And now the galaxy knows humans are dangerous. And if it is, we're seeing the beginning of a new era." He activated the communication arrays, sending out a single message to human outposts in the nearby systems. "This is a warning," he said. "Human space is protected. We seek peace. Do not test us." In the systems far beyond, surviving aliens whispered to one another. Their fleets had been destroyed or scattered, their commanders wiped from existence. They told tales of a human ship that could erase entire armadas. Some thought it was a legend, others knew it was real. But all agreed, humans could not be tested lightly again. On a distant planet, a young human cadet named Liam Brooks was listening to transmissions about the battle. His father had told him stories of the legend when he was a child. Now, as he heard the whispers of alien fleets destroyed, he understood what his father meant. Humans were not weak. Humans were survivors. Humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. Liam's mentor, Commander Grace Bennett, looked at him seriously. Remember this, Liam. Power is not meant to be used for pride. It is meant to protect. Humans survived not because we were the strongest, but because we were willing to endure and adapt. That is why the legend exists. The story of the battle would travel slowly, but the lesson was clear. Humans could be dangerous when forced, and they would not forget. Meanwhile, Ethan monitored nearby systems for threats. Sensors picked up occasional small alien vessels, usually scouts or traders, but nothing of serious size. The legend had made its statement. Any large fleet that moved too close to human space would hesitate, think twice, and often retreat. The galaxy was learning to respect humans quietly, without direct confrontation. Yet Ethan knew this was only temporary. Peace always had a cost, and humans would need to remain vigilant. He walked the length of the bridge, examining every system. The ship was ancient but resilient, and he could feel its intelligence guiding him subtly, almost like it knew what needed to be done before he even commanded it. Back on the scout ship, Laura and Megan watched the stars for any sign of movement. Megan's fingers traced the outlines of the destroyed alien formations. "They underestimated humans," she said. "They thought we were soft. They thought we couldn't fight back. They were wrong." It was a warning, not a threat. Humans hoped it would never be needed again, but it waited, ready for the day the galaxy might force its hand once more. In far systems, diplomats, traders, and scholars began to discuss humans differently. Humans had once been seen as fragile, scattered, and limited in power. Now there was hesitation in every corner. Even peaceful aliens approached human systems with caution, carefully sending scouts instead of fleets. On Earth and human colonies, children grew up hearing the story of the legend. It was taught not as a tale of glory, but as a lesson. Humans must respect the balance between power and responsibility. The story reminded them that humans could survive, adapt, and if necessary, fight with unimaginable strength. Ethan stood on the bridge, staring out at the endless stars. The galaxy was quiet now, but he knew it would not stay quiet forever. There would always be threats. There would always be those who underestimated humans. But humanity had learned something critical. It could survive, and it could defend itself when pushed to the edge. In the far distance, small alien scouts approached human borders. Some paused, sensing what had occurred in the nearby system. They felt the warning, even without seeing the legend directly. And slowly, cautiously, they turned away, retreating into unknown space. The legend waited. Its hull glinted faintly in the light of distant stars, ancient and alive. Ethan walked among the empty corridors, listening to the hum of the ship, feeling its quiet strength. It had destroyed an armada. It had reshaped how the galaxy saw humans, and it would continue to wait, a guardian in silence. Humans were no longer fragile. They were no longer just survivors. They had created legends, and those legends had teeth. And somewhere beyond the edges of mapped space, the legend drifted, waiting for the day it might need to act again. Liam Brooks, now older and trained as a cadet, read reports of the destroyed armada and the warnings sent by the legend. He understood the lesson deeply. Humans were powerful not because they wanted war, but because they were willing to endure it when necessary. He promised himself that he would honor that lesson, not with aggression, but with vigilance and courage. Back on the legend, Ethan activated a low-energy scan of the galaxy. He did not need to move fast. The galaxy would learn to respect humans in time. Ships would approach cautiously. Colonies would rebuild, but with the knowledge that humanity was not to be underestimated. "Peace is fragile," Ethan said to himself. "But humans are stronger than most believe, and we will survive." The legend remained, silent, patient, eternal. The galaxy had learned a lesson. It was a lesson written not in words or treaties, but in light, destruction, and silence. Humans had spoken without shouting. Humans had fought without rage, and humans had survived stronger than ever. Ethan walked to the viewport once more, staring at the stars. Somewhere in the distance, he knew, another threat might rise. But the legend would wait, and humanity would endure. The galaxy might fear them, but it would also remember, humans were not just a species. Humans were a force that could change everything. And the legend drifted onward, quietly, eternally, watching, waiting, and ready.